Hello, I'm Tim Harris. This is Julie Harris, and this is Real Estate Coaching Radio.
That's right. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any future episodes. Thanks again for popping by. Hit that like button, and don't forget to leave your comments and questions so we can get right back with you.
We will. Thank you for continuing to make our podcast, Real Estate Coaching Radio, the #1 listened to podcast for real estate professionals in at least the United States. And let us know what you think about this video. Leave your comments below. Thank you.
3, 2, 1, and we are back. And today is a very special podcast because this podcast is, like every podcast, but more so today, all about you, our dear listener.
That's right. So thank you. And we are amazingly blessed to have you in our lives. Tim and Julie Harris Real Estate Training and Coaching School, otherwise known as this podcast you're listening to now, continues to rock the podcast charts because of you. And today's show is all about you, our coaching clients, podcast listeners, YouTube subscribers. This podcast has become one of the, if not the #1 podcast for realtors and other real estate professionals in the United States. We have incredible results. This show has millions of downloads and listens every single month. And keep in mind that there are about 1.6 million realtors in the United States, and millions choose to download and listen to this show daily. Ready for a really amazing number? This show has had over 20 million downloads.
And by the way, that 20 million number was from last year in August.
20 million plus downloads.
Exactly, 20 million plus downloads. Yeah. But here's the funny thing. I always love looking to see where the listeners come from. And we're going to be reading you guys some listener feedback. And obviously there's going to be some embedded questions too that we're going to address. But really our focus on today's show is to thank all of you and thank all of you as gratuitously as we can on a podcast. Exactly. But so here are the top 10 countries where we get most of our downloads. #1 is the United States. #2 is Canada. Nobody should be surprised there. And going on down the list, Julie, you can just rattle off these names.
Sure. We have France, the UK, Slovakia, New Zealand, Israel, Australia, Uganda, and Belgium. Those are just the top 10. And I also want to give a special shout out to all of our service members because we know you're listening as well. Many of you are in Guam. We have coaching clients in Guam, for example, but you're all over the world, whether you're forward deployed or you're a reservist. Our hearts go out to you and thank you for your service.
We have a lot of podcast listeners in countries, and this makes sense, where real estate is done in a similar fashion as done in the United States. I don't know if you guys knew this, but in some countries, believe it or not, you don't need a real estate license. And there is no cooperative commission structure, and there really is not much of a structure to residential real estate sales whatsoever. But we have a lot of listeners in countries where I'll say there's organized real estate. I don't know about Slovakia, to be honest with you.
I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up and see how that actually operates.
But I know we have lots of clients, as you said, in Australia, especially in Israel. And also that list also mirrors where we have a lot of people in our EXP Realty group as well.
Indeed.
So we have a lot of people that are podcast listeners and coaching clients and join EXP Realty with our group and vice versa as well. So for all of you, we want to give you sincere thanks. And now what we're going to do is we're going to share with you some of the most recent, I say the last maybe day or two, comments and just different things we picked up from the ether. And if you guys want to send us a comment, a question, listener feedback, or really any suggestions for shows, we always read those and comment and respond back. And we do it personally. I'm always shocked. Some of you guys think we delegate the most important stuff,
or turn it into a bot, which we're not.
Exactly. I've had people so many times text me and then think it was a bot, and they're like trying to mess with a bot. You know, sometimes when you're messing with a customer service bot, and so I'll just play back and play back with them. But anyway, yeah. So that's how bored I am sometimes, I guess.
Yes, proof that it's for real.
That's right. If you want to message us, you can do it over on Instagram. Obviously, it's at Tim and Julie Harris. And while you're over there, check out some of our personal family pictures. Some of you guys seem to really appreciate those. And you can also text us directly at 512-758-0206. That is my private cell phone number, 512-758-0206. And again, we're looking for any listener feedback, shows, things where maybe you weren't in complete agreement, or maybe things where you didn't completely understand the point we are trying to make. Any sorts of clarity moments that you're needing, do ask us and we will help you. Again, you could text me at 512-758-0206 or just message us on Instagram. So Julie, we received quite a few really nice notes on a regular basis. Most of them are just like 5 or 6 words.
Yes.
And so what I did is I chose this morning a few comments recently where people took the time to kind of write in long form. Mm-hmm. And so those are some of those that we're going to read to you right now. And then again, a lot of questions embedded into these comments that we're also going to address.
All right, so feel free to jump in and interrupt if you'd like to add commentary. And there's lots of emojis in here, so it might be a little bit clunky, but thank you to all of you in advance, and shout outs to all of you. Here's the first one from Charles Foy III. That's Foy, for those of you who want to send him referrals. Hi, you two. My name is Charles, and I am new, 8 months in, realtor in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area. I'm grateful to have met you when I did, even though I spent stupid money on buyer leads. Ugh, you don't know what you don't know. I started my Premier Coaching and will be talking to my wife tonight to see about the further investment into our future as realtor with your help. I have a full-time job, so working my business at night and on the weekends primarily, as I'm still in pursuit of my first sale or rental. I just wanted to say hi and thank you for your honest, straight talk. I am sold on expireds and for sale by owners. I just need those contacts and scripts. LOL. Thanks for the resources too. All the best, Charles Foy III.
Now, I followed up with him, and this was his response. I just basically thanked him for the nice letter and asked his permission to read it on the podcast today. And so this was his response.
As his follow-up response was, told my wife last night, I wish I met you all before I took the test so that when I got my license, took the exam once, I would have gone straight into being coached by Tim and Julie Harris Coaching. I would have not followed everyone else thinking that marketing and branding were important to me as a new realtor. I would have saved so much money and time. At this point, I would have broken my $1 million GCI goal by now too, LOL. I did have a question. How do I sell a home that didn't get sold, in other words, an expired? Expireds and for sale by owners will be my first two spokes, followed by sphere of influence.
Now we have, I would say, 50% agents in our coaching program that have been in the business for less than probably 36 months, and the rest are in the business obviously for longer. And I would say probably 20% have been in the business for more than 10 years. So statistically, that's how it works out. So I wanted this particular Charles to be highlighted because, frankly, it's a really nice, classy letter he wrote to us, or message. This was from Instagram, but also the secondary issue with regards to him having been sold into marketing and branding, and you also heard him mention the buying of the leads. And I really do sincerely hope you guys understand that we are certainly not against marketing and branding, and even in some cases paying referral fees for viable leads. I mean, all those things have a place in the business, but as Charles has learned, and it sounds like the expensive and hard way, that you will have those passive lead generators as something that you may or may not do after you've learned how to proactively lead generate. And that thus essentially the learning that I would say the painful, more expensive, using his words, path to the discovery that really the smart way to move forward, especially in an economy and a real estate market like this, is being a proactive lead generator. So I did answer his question with regards to expireds and FSBOs, but really at the end of the day, Charles, the expireds are, if you have to choose between expireds and FSBOs, if you want to choose, here's what my suggestion would be. If I were coaching you personally, this is what I'd tell you to do. Focus on the expireds first. And the reason I'd have you focus on the expireds first is because you know a whole bunch about them. And so the problem with most FSBOs, or the challenge you're going to have with a lot of FSBOs, is correctly pricing it. And FSBOs are going to want to sometimes be a little bit more, I'd say, I'm not going to say combative, but
maybe resistive.
Right. Now, what do we know about an expired? We know what the price isn't.
We also know that they're willing to list, which makes them a little bit, I would say, slightly easier than the for sale by owner.
We know, that we know they're willing to pay a commission. So there's a lot fewer, I would say, challenges when listing an expired. But the other thing that's nice about an expired is the challenge a lot of listing agents have right now, a lot of sellers have, is accepting the new reality of the new market. And we've been talking about this obviously for this entire year, into even last year, that this is the most challenging part in any real estate market, because we all have to cross this sort of rickety old bridge. Hopefully longtime listeners will remember that analogy. And if you don't, here it is. Basically, we're all on this long sort of Indiana Jones rope bridge where every fourth, a bug-infested plank of wood, might fall out, and then you might end up falling, 1,000 stories to your, death.
Hanging over the chasm with rushing water beneath.
That's right. So you're being very careful, and God forbid the actual rope itself is rotten. You guys get the point. Well, that is the type of market that we're in right now, in that we're transitioning. So the market that you're already on this bridge, and you can't go back, right? But the market you left was the market that left you about 1.5 years ago. And the new market is way ahead. Now, this damn rope bridge, of course, like, Indiana Jones, is super long. And and there's like dense fog, and maybe there's some foliage covering the other end of the bridge. I don't know. I'm really
getting it. It's also windy.
That's right. Did I mention the pterodactyls?
Oh, yeah, and there could be hail.
So you can't see the other side of the bridge. And so you're maybe 20% onto this bridge. You know you can't go back. And what a lot of you do is you look for shortcuts to go forward. And that's what Charles did. And I say this with love, Charles, but people look for shortcuts. They think, and again, people selling you guys shortcuts or shiny objects know that you're looking for shortcuts and shiny objects. So they're just going to sell you shortcuts and shiny objects. Whether it actually works or not doesn't really matter, because they know most of you won't be in the business for maybe 24 months. Then the failure rate is off the hook, right? What, 90% of agents fail out of the business within 24 months? Well, so if you're selling somebody a shiny object, I got an email yesterday that absolutely made me laugh and cry at the same time. And this was from a major real estate trainer, coach, guru that all of you guys.
Yes.
All right. So the subject line was, do you want to be a YouTube star? How batshit crazy is that to have as a focus point in this market? It just doesn't even make sense. But you see what that person's trying to do. They're trying to sell to your ego. They're trying to essentially sell to you, to the idea that you don't have to do what you don't want to do and you don't want to do it at the highest level. They're trying to appeal to your personal lowest common denominator of needing recognition. They're trying to basically make it so that you're not focused on long-term success and long-term income. We're trying to do the exact opposite. We want you guys to build long-term sustainable businesses. So back to your question, Charles, yes, expireds would be definitely the first thing I would coach you to work on. But simultaneously, and this is not an either or, so your answer, Charles, is expireds. But also make sure you're building your center of influence and past client list, which I'm sure is what Julie was going to say.
Well, yes. And his last question was, how do I sell a home that didn't get sold by somebody else? And he's involved in Premier Coaching. In Premier Coaching, there's something called the listing evaluation.
Right.
It's a tool that you can use to assess going into a new listing, whether that was an expired for somebody else or a fresh one for you, or maybe a price reduction is needed. How do you sell something that didn't sell the first time around, or maybe is sitting on the market for you? Well, we have those tools to help you out, along with a multitude of scripts and coaching to help support you so that you are the listing agent when it actually sells, which is the point of being a listing agent.
And Charles, this is something I feel I don't have any proof of it, but I think I'm right. Anybody who takes the time to show overt gratitude and write such a nice message to somebody, a stranger basically, because, we don't personally know Charles, but we do now, right? But anybody like Charles who takes the time to show overt gratitude like that probably has been doing so his entire life and probably has a long list of people that would happily do a transaction. So Charles Foy,
100%.
new agent, you have a very robust center of influence and not past clients, but center of influence list that you might not realize will do transactions with you. But because of your nature, they probably would be happy to do a deal with you, even though you're new. So don't let your newness make you think that they won't transact with you, because they probably already know and love and trust you. And that's 99% of the game when you're trying to win at real estate, right? And again, we have lots of information on Premier Coaching about how to build your center of influence and past client list. Oh, and by the way, we are not advocates of you spending money on tchotchkes. Now, I know around the holidays, it's fun to drop off wrapping paper and things like that. Well, that's fine, because you can buy wrapping paper rolls at like the dollar store for like,
Especially now, yeah.
for like
Super
10
cheap.
cents. Yeah.
Yep.
But the idea that we want you to have direct, our words will always be the same, proactive communication with everybody. All your centers of influence and past clients expired. The more the world goes to passive communication, the more powerful proactive, direct communication will be, because you'll have less competition. Do you guys understand that? How many people actually try to converse with you? Everyone tries to digitally converse with you, right? Everyone tries to message you, or they try to mail you, or they try to, somehow lure you into their whatever from some sort of digital marketing and advertising. So if you become the person that's really effective at in-person or over the phone, direct voice-to-voice or person-to-person contact, you are going to win at such a level that you won't even understand why you're so effective. The reason is because digital communication, if you think of in terms of I was going to say evolution, but I'll just say evolution so you guys understand. In the ascent of man, let's say, digital forms of communication have been around for basically like no time at all. A blink, not even a blink, like a milliblink, right? So humans have been conversing with each other person to person forever. And then for a very short period of time, we've been doing so digitally. Now, nerdy, right? So why does all this matter to you? Because we're all hardwired to essentially interpret communication, to hire people, to choose our leaders, to, all that from actually listening to people. So if you want to know how to have an advantage, it's not through text, it's not through email, it's not through even direct mail, it's through conversations and getting in front of more people. And in a market like this, where the market's going in a direction that's challenging a lot of sellers, a lot of people in the economy, overall, and certainly a lot of real estate practitioners, that is your unfair advantage. So Charles, hopefully you've internalized all that. And again, thank you for taking the time to write such a nice note. All right, Julie, let's move on to the next one.
All right, the next one, which I think is probably from Instagram too. I don't have a name attached to this one.
I forgot.
Believe that's okay. Who writes, I've learned an enormous amount from this book. That's referring to the Harris Rules book, which you can get on Amazon and all of the great booksellers, including at the airport and wherever you might find books.
Which, by the way, always is hilarious.
Which is great
for you and I. Julie and I, every time we're waiting at an airport, we always go to their little bookstore and look for our book. And it's always funny where they put the book, especially if they don't have
next to?
Yeah, I mean, we found the book next. What was the funniest one was
Crypto Dad.
Crypto Dad. That's right. That was in Orange County, right?
That's the same category, but okay. But anyway, yes. And we also have it on Audible. And I have to say, we are not the ones reading the Audible, but we personally chose the narrator, and we're very happy with how that came out. So if you're an Audible person, you can get that on Amazon as well. So that's the Harris Rules book. I have learned an enormous amount from this book and your podcast, and also the Premier Coaching Program. I've learned so much about business, life, financials, etc., and it's really made a big difference. So thank you for all the work that you've done putting everything together and providing a tremendous amount of value to so many people. I notice I've made better life and investment decisions, and I have even started to say some of the same stuff y'all would. Thanks. Without y'all, I would have been a very lost and sad agent.
I think, if I remember correctly, this was a gentleman that sent this one as well. And I apologize for not having your name in my notes. I will write that wrong tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, there you go. That's somebody else. These types of messages don't take a long time to write. I'm hoping, and Julie and I are hoping, that this inspires you to overtly show appreciation to the people, especially this time of year, to people who've had an impact on your life. Even in small, like for example, let's say there's an agent in your marketplace that you don't even know, that you've never even done a deal with, but that agent you've kind of looked up to. Maybe you don't even want to admit you've looked up to him. Maybe this person is just whatever. There's some kind of leader in your marketplace. You need to send him a note and just say, listen, hey, Bob, this is, Tim and Julie Harris. I just wanted to personally thank you for, essentially the leadership you provided in the community, whether you know it or not. A lot of us really look up to you. Something like that. You guys get it? I promise you, when you are submitting an offer on one of Bob's listings, Bob is going to remember you, and you just might have an advantage from doing so. But even if you never get a direct advantage from that, it's just the right thing to do. When people help you, even if they do it indirectly, always show appreciation. Now, here's the magic thing that shows it when you're in the appreciation mode. Same thing that happens when you're in the gratitude mode. You feel better. You become the person that you want to be. You're something, again, Julie and I have spent too much time talking about this and trying to figure it out. There's something, again, that's innate in all of us, that we're in a state of gratitude or appreciation, kind of the same thing, same vibe, right? We, all of a sudden, everyone doesn't feel anxious, don't feel stressed. You're less susceptible to some of the doom and gloom, doom scrolling and all the nasty stuff that's out there, especially in a time where people are a little bit nervous about the economy, or a lot nervous in a lot of cases, right? So when you're showing overt gratitude and you're showing overt appreciation for other people, and again, even if you personally don't feel, actually, let me add it to that. If you personally want gratitude and appreciation, and that's the reason, like you're saying, well, why should I show gratitude and appreciation towards other people? No one's showing it towards me. Well, they're not showing it towards you, or you're not receiving it because you're not giving it. And I, again, don't understand how it works that way, but it does. So if you have people in your life, and all of you do, that you're blessed to have in your life, you need to say thank you. And you need to do it in an overt way, because it will make you feel better. It'll make you feel more optimistic. Optimistic isn't even the right word. It'll make you feel more connected to the person that you want to be. And I think, I hate woo-woo personally, but I'm in a spiritual way. It really does. There's something about it that elevates your mindset and your approach to other people when you're keeping yourself in a state of being in gratitude and appreciation. And you have to do it overtly. And then over time, you're going to find when you are routinely showing gratitude and appreciation towards other people, it really does start to hardwire your approach to life in general. And people can feel it.
Absolutely. I 1000% agree. And I think that due to the 2+ COVID years, a lot of people kind of got away from that. And I think part of why it is so impactful now, I think it always has been, but especially as we're getting back to resonating with each other and feeling connected, there is absolutely a human need to feel connected and appreciated and appreciative of each other in terms of just human to human contact. And that's really critical. So one of the things you guys can be doing is go to your, as you lovingly call it, your database. That sounds pretty unfamiliar, right? But your past clients, your center of influence, your friends, your family, your neighbors, and go through that list and just, send thank you cards. Thank them overtly. If they run a business, go to, reviews and give them a review. All of you are starving for reviews all the time. It's one of the questions that coaches get is, how do I get more reviews? Give more reviews. You'll be surprised. They'll do it right back to you almost instantly.
We received a note, and I know she's a regular listener. Actually, I think her husband's a regular listener. And it was so sweet. And it was on Instagram again. And she was actually I remember it now. I can see the words. But she was asking us to send her a autograph signed Harris Rules book as a surprise for her husband, who's a real estate agent, who's a big fan of this podcast and who's a coaching client. And he didn't, obviously it's going to be a present, and he didn't know the whole thing. So she sends us this little note, and I can kind of sense that she didn't expect us to reply. Not only did we reply, but we of course sent her the book, and of course we signed it and we sent it back. But
I also sent them a journal as a bonus.
Oh, you did? Yeah. But no, I'm not encouraging all of you just to, basically ask for free books. But this one, at this moment in particular, we're actually sending out some books. We're running a little promotion right now, or a contest. I think you guys have probably seen it, where I don't remember the rules, but basically we are giving away 20 signed autographed books, copies of Harris Rules. Those books, by the way, do cost us money, just for the record. We're not getting those for free.
They don't just materialize.
We're not just hoarding those. Sometimes you guys message us and say, can I get my free book? What free book? Harris Rules? No, that is a book that costs us money.
It's on real paper and stuff.
When we want to give you guys a book, we go to Amazon and we buy them.
Yeah.
And here's the problem. I'll tell you guys, this is funny. Amazon knows that we buy books every quarter. Not that many. We might buy like 50 or whatever. But Amazon knows that we're going to buy them anyway. So whatever the spectrum from lowest price to most expensive price is, they always tag us to the most expensive price. So you guys might be able to buy Harris Rules for like $10, but every time Julie and I buy Harris Rules, it's like $18 each.
Right.
Because
they figure it's so popular and we're ordering in quantity, we might as well pay more, I guess.
Well, they do variable pricing, right? I don't know if you guys knew this, but when you go and buy airline tickets, hotel rooms, even there's this big hubbub about, what Ticketmaster?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ticketmaster. All these, it's called, I forget what the actual term is.
It's like fluid pricing, but it's a different term.
Variable pricing or something, right? Yeah. Well, Amazon does the same thing. Matter of fact, I think Amazon kind of created the space. So Amazon has a profile on you, and if they know you are this, you spend this much, and this is your, you're going to be paying more than someone just showed up for the first time. It's just
ironic, isn't it?
It is funny. You might be getting free shipping, but
no, we'll find a way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, whatever we can do to support you guys. Listen, what we're trying to do, what we are, I think, successfully doing, is we're creating a community that all of you can be members of. And no matter what happens in the economy, no matter what happens, just politics, no matter what happens in the housing market, you guys are around like-minded people who are very, very, really overtly supportive of each other. If you're wanting to be associated with people who, look, we acknowledge and we have sympathy for what's going on in the world, but we are choosing to move forward. And we know, all of us know, that our highest and best purpose on this planet is being of service to other people. And we're not going to be of much service to other people if we're essentially, wallowing in the drama. Right. The only way for all of us to be service to other people is if we keep moving forward, we stay in tune with what our highest and truest purpose is, which I just mentioned, and then have the skill set to back it up. And a lot of you guys totally get that. And it's obvious when you go to our daily premier coaching sessions, when you're reading the comments and you're reading how supportive, a new agent will pop in or a seasoned agent will pop in, and people will start celebrating their victories together. And Julie and I will go in there and read and participate. And it's so incredible to see so many of you guys being so supportive of people. It's heartwarming, honestly.
Absolutely.
You and I are obviously
grateful.
creating something that we're incredibly proud of it. And this goes back to the premise of today's podcast. We're massively appreciative of what you guys have allowed for us to do, which is live our life's mission, which is being of service to all of you. We're doing that because you allow us. That's really, I don't know how else to say it, but that's the truth. We've earned the right to be of service to all of you guys, and we sincerely appreciate it. So here's another comment, and this one was from our members only page.
Yes, this is from Courtney Shantz, who writes, Harris Rules, again, that's the book, the podcast, and the accountability form, which is found in Premier Coaching. My Harris coach helped me sell $3 million in my first 6 months in real estate in a market that I was not from and continues to give. I wouldn't be where I am, I don't believe, without the help. I had a license to get sued and nothing else. Thank you for showing me the way and helping me achieve my multi-million-dollar goals every year, because Courtney's been with us for a while. Congratulations to you. You deserve 5 stars.
Well, think about that.
You do as well, Courtney. So
Yes.
Thank you for, what these 3 comments, and we have so many more. We need to be doing this more. We might be starting to do more
I want to do it every Friday. Yeah.
Yes. So, we could go on and on. But one of the things that these 3 that we highlighted today have in common is that they didn't just get the book, didn't just listen to the podcast, didn't just become Premier Coaching members. They actually took action on what they're learning and got results, in many cases, nearly immediately, because they took action. They didn't just say, hey, that was an interesting podcast, or that was a great read, I liked listening to that Audible. You guys took action, so kudos to you.
Well, it's learning while you earn, right? Or earning while you learn, right?
Yep.
That's really what we're focusing on. We don't want you guys to sign up for coaching and then just, I'm going to get to work and, do what I don't want to do, and I don't want to do it at the highest level after I've been in coaching for 6 months and I've learned everything. You're never going to learn everything.
The market will just change on you. The rules will just
Right.
change on you. The lending, everything changes all the time. You'll never know, everything you can about real estate. I tell coaching stories about that all the time when we were doing all of our 100+ deals per year for nearly a decade.
Let's take a half step back,
Yeah.
right?
I thought, I have to have seen everything. This is, especially a lot of that was before we had a lot of transaction coordinators. So you were in the weeds, right? And then one day, I'll never forget this. We had somebody that it was a relocation deal. Our seller left town. It wasn't a round table closing. Somebody else's buyer moved into one of our listings, and they said, your seller took the carpet. Do you remember this?
I totally do.
And I remember sitting at my desk thinking, I don't have a script for that. Like, this was not like a nice old house where you take the carpet and expose the hardwood floors. This was like a 3-year-old house that had decent looking carpet. I mean, the listing sold.
It was builder grade carpet. It wasn't even great.
I know, exactly. But who takes the carpet?
But think about and guys, this was not carpet where you pull the carpet up and there's nice hardwood floors.
This plywood.
This plywood, it's
and carpet tacks.
Well, not plywood, but yeah, exactly. So this guy thought, well, wasn't in the contract.
Well, when I called, because it took me a while to I didn't know what to say, and he said, well, they didn't say I couldn't. And I said, well, they didn't say you couldn't take, the contract didn't say you couldn't take the furnace, but you left that.
Well, but his issue was, first of all, he had a lousy listing agent. Second of all, he didn't read the contract to realize that the fact is, we're on the buyer side of that one. He didn't read the contract to realize the fact is that the, anything that's bolted to the house, all these types of things.
Well, and in fact, the rest of the story, because we tend to forget, the rest of the story. The carpet was getting restretched. There was like this continuing saga of what was going on. But the reason I share that story, and we have many others, I remember one time somebody had to move their pet graveyard as part of the contract.
Yep.
You think you know everything after so many deals, grizzled veterans can relate, and then something totally bizarre that you cannot even make up happens. So you have to resist analysis paralysis and thinking that you've got to go to this many coaching calls, or you've got to go to that many role plays, or you have to have 10 accountability partners, or you have to read and reread everything. Just get into action. Your job is to learn while you earn. Our job is to educate you, motivate you, and get you into action.
And by the way, the coaching program, Premier Coaching, We are constantly, frankly, it's Julie and her team are constantly, I really have nothing to do with it, fortunately, updating all of the content. We'll change the scripts. And I'll just give you guys an example. Our scripts, all of them used to be a lot longer. And as things have evolved, this is, again, prepared nerdy fact, but as languages in general evolve, they actually have a tendency to lose words. If you guys don't believe me.
Get more and more succinct.
To get more succinct, right. So a good writing nowadays is measured by the fewest number of words you've used to make a point. But good writing back in, say, the 1800s was a lot of flowery words. And I think most of you guys have maybe watched old movies and you realize that. Even movies from like the 60s and the 70s, it's just long stream of really complicated words. And, you know, maybe people were smarter back then, but in a way, I think shorter, more succinct is a more effective way to communicate. Well, guess what? We've had to make our scripts shorter and more succinct. We've had to make our presentations shorter and more succinct. We've had to evolve, and we always evolve the coaching program. So when you guys are enrolling in Premier Coaching, you're enrolling in a state-of-the-art program that's always being updated. But what we don't remove is the essence of what makes it so successful in all market conditions and all price ranges for all people of different experience levels. We know many of you are coming to real estate or coming to us as coaching clients, and you don't have a sales background. Many of you, I would say a vast majority of you, have been in real estate for a long time, but have never been in real estate during a transitioning, let alone a buyer's market. I know for a fact that 74%, almost 76% actually, depending on which survey result I read from us, is you guys have only been in the business for like 10 years or less. That's a vast majority of you who have never been in the business during a transitioning, let alone a buyer's market. So here's what I'm telling you. Everything, and I've had these calls with you guys, so you know what I'm talking about, and I'm picturing the faces and hearing the voices in my head from all the calls like this I've had. I'm on a lot of Zooms and podcasts, and this is a very popular topic because there was a process that a lot of agents have been going through over the last, I would say 2 years, but really last maybe 6 months, that has been interesting for me to watch. And that's where people think that their skill set that they used in the seller's market, or really this past, I don't even know if it's a seller's market, it was something completely different, way beyond the word seller's market. That downplays how much.
Hypermarket.
Exactly. Well, yeah. So that skill set, I'm air quoting that because there wasn't a lot of skills necessary in that past market, are not going to work in this new market. And it's fascinating over this relatively short period of time where a lot of people have really struggled and been in denial that they have to hit hard reset and go back to school and relearn how to basically sell real estate. Or frankly, not even relearn. They have to actually learn how to sell real estate. They have to learn how to have meaningful conversations with sellers. They have to learn how to get price reductions. If you guys don't believe me, here's the simplest way to test what I'm saying and validate what I'm saying is true. Go to your MLS, look to see how many expired listings there are, and I could pretty much guarantee you 99% of all those listings that are expiring on the listing agents who are also their buyer's agents, and probably 99% of those sellers who are selling now bought those houses after, say, 2009. Why am I telling you all this? You're dealing with an inexperienced agent from the market's perspective, and inexperienced sellers from the market's perspective. So you got it. Remember this long rickety ass bridge I'm talking about? These are the what would you call it? Legs we have to all be crossing the bridge together. You're dealing with a market full of inexperienced agents, and for a while you were dealing with a market full of inexperienced agents that were in denial that they were inexperienced.
Along with the sellers who were aspirationally priced.
And now you guys, a lot of you guys you're realizing that you're consciously incompetent, right? And you're realizing there's a lot you need to learn. But your sellers, they're still in denial.
Well, that's the tough part about the transition. And so fortunately, all of our Harris certified coaches have been through a multitude of different types of markets: hot sellers market, balanced market, buyer's market, doesn't matter. And they are fluid. So the questions that we're getting, you guys email and text and Instagram us, are very different than they were 6 months ago, right? So we didn't, for a long time, have anybody asking about a price reduction script. We didn't have much where you guys felt like it was that hard to get full price or higher.
This is my favorite one. And again, I've had this one all the time. Tim, I don't know how quite to say this, but I've got a listing. It's been on the market for 3 days.
3 days. What do I do?
It hasn't sold.
Should I reduce it?
Should I reduce it? And
how do I talk to the seller?
Exactly. And then I ask these questions. Why is the seller selling?
I don't know.
What's the seller owe? I don't know. How long is your listing contract? 90 days. Okay, well, those are three, huge mistakes you've already made. So we're going to have a hard time unringing this bell. Listing contracts need to be for at least 6 months. And frankly, even longer. You always have to know what the seller's motivation is. You have to know what the seller's motivation is. It is perhaps the most important thing.
Seller's net sheet, kind of important.
Right. You want to know what the seller's netting. You got to know all that or you can't do your job. Imagine walking into a doctor's office and the doctor not making you, think of all the crapola you guys have to do before you can even see the doctor for 36 seconds where he gives you a Band-Aid for your bruise, right? You have to fill out paperwork for the insurance company, paperwork for all your previous whatever.
They weigh you.
They weigh, right? Take all that. And then the doctor comes in, reviews this, the paperwork you just filled out, and then also basically will ask you similar questions again and then solve your problem. But what you guys have never learned how to do the work part of real estate for the most part because there's been so much FOMO, fear of missing out in the market. Buyers would buy without you. You just were smart enough to put yourself in between them and the seller. Sellers were going to sell without you. That's in a market like what we're entering out of, what frankly we've left. It was abusive to agents.
It was.
It was. It was nasty. It was.
We acknowledge that. It was difficult in its own ways.
But if you have to choose, and many of you won't agree with me now, but you will in a year, especially if you become Premier Coaching clients, if you have to choose between a really crazy hot seller's market and a market like what we're in, let alone the one we're going into, you're going to want to be in the one that we're in now, and let alone going into. And I'll give you all the obvious reasons why. Sellers are more cooperative because they know you. They need you.
The motivated ones are.
The motivated ones, and that's assuming you have the skill set. By the way, commissions are going to go up. By the way, it's going to finally give you an opportunity to become a listing agent and build your listing inventory. And isn't that ultimately the reason you got into real estate? You're going to have to pay less in referral fees, not more in referral fees. And I think this is also an attribute to this new market. You're going to be inundated with fewer shiny objects because many of the shiny object companies are being eviscerated right now because agents aren't able to buy yet another buyer lead for 37%, right? All of that is going away, which is going to leave agents that have the right mindset and skill set to dominate the marketplace. That should be you in every one of your markets. And of course, Premier Coaching is your solution. We encourage all of you guys to join Premier Coaching. It is 100% free for you to join. 100% no obligation for you to join now. Just text the word Premier to 47372. Text the word Premier to 47372. If you're outside the continental United States or just prefer not to text for whatever reason, you can just go to premiercoaching.com. Remember, text the word Premier, Premier, to 47372, or just go to premiercoaching.com. And you can join. It takes, 22 seconds, 24 seconds to join. You just have to go and, name, rank, and serial number. And then depending on what time of day you join, what time is the daily semi-private coaching call?
Noon Eastern every weekday.
Right. And if you missed it, don't worry about it. You can go back and listen to the replay. And so you can be on a live coaching call with one of our Harris certified coaches every single workday. You get immediate access to probably really too much stuff in the first level. But the first thing we want you to complete and do this urgently is the real estate treasure map. That's your fill in the blank personal and business plan. That is going to get your head screwed on straight. That is going to give you a sense of direction. And then attend your daily semi-private coaching call every single day. Even if you don't have a question, somebody's going to ask a question and you're going to hear an answer. And then a day later, 2 weeks later, you're going to have actually discovered you had that same question too. Someone's going to ask a question about a listing or some complicated problem that they have. The coach is going to answer it. You're not going to think it's relevant to you. And then you're later going to discover it's relevant to you. That is called you being smart. That is called you being prepared for the market that's going to come. And I'll tell you, this is definitely happening right now. It happens every time there's a market transition. This is arguably Julie and I's fourth in our careers. Yes, we've been doing this a long damn time. What we're seeing is different markets adjust in different ways at different rates, right? So we're seeing, for example, well, you're the one that's more in the front lines than me.
Well, even within somebody's home market, in different price ranges, different neighborhoods, parts of town, it can change. So unlike the super hot sellers market that we have now pulled away from, where pretty much the whole country and even Canada moved very similarly, right?
Well, in the United States,
the United States, everybody's getting multiple offers. That all happened exactly the same for everyone. Not now. Now you have markets where, you're still, I had some coaching calls last week where they were still getting multiple offers. Now, it wasn't 12 multiple offers.
Markets. Give us some
markets.
examples.
Let's see. The less expensive in the middle of the country. I would say like Columbia, Missouri. Indianapolis is getting some of that. Orlando. And these are all, I would say, everything I heard was, I would say maybe 450 or less, because that's first-time buyers and investors both going after the same property.
Right. So
assuming it's priced right.
We're seeing adjustments. Now, here's the interesting thing, too. Back in 07, 08, 09, markets that got slaughtered by the housing crash, Miami and other markets, they're doing great right now. So it's interesting. The market, it's fascinating from our perspective, because we've been doing this for so long, to see how the market's reacting differently now, because most of America has 50%, unless they bought in the first 6 months of this year, most of America has 50% equity.
Well, the average price reduction is only like 11 grand or something like that.
Exactly.
Okay, so some of those conversations are, all right, so we've been on the market a couple of weekends, we've had some open houses, we're not really working with anything, what do we do? A little adjustment usually does the trick, but back to Columbia, Missouri for a second. It is possible that, for example, Larissa's market, she had multiple offers on that lower end stuff, but meanwhile, she has a few listings that are over 500, which are not hardly even getting any showings. That can happen in the same town. That's why you've got to be a lot more careful now.
And then we have clients in LA that are selling $5 million, $10 million properties. Those properties are sitting on the market, no big surprise. Down in Miami, sitting on the market, no big surprise. There are certain markets that were up in around New York City. I'm thinking of, Greenwich and all those others that were doing, they're absolutely kicking ass because of COVID. And now guess what? Those markets are starting to slow down a lot.
Well, that's a trend I see too, I heard a lot this week of people breaking up with their COVID era VRBO properties.
Right.
Because, they're not renting like they used to, or it's not in the area that they thought it was, or the upkeep is too much.
It's oversaturated.
They're not leasing the way it is. It's got more competition.
Well,
and that's some listings right now.
Every mom and pop investor on social is telling people how to buy VRBOs. VRBOs has become the new fix and flip, basically.
Agreed.
And so in most markets, it's oversaturated with too many VRBOs.
For sure.
But there was an amazingly interesting bit of contrarian good news about housing yesterday. Do you remember?
Yes, that's right. Was it the one I was telling you about, the podcast I listened to?
No, I'm talking about the fact that the loan limits.
Oh, yes. This is strange but true. I believe FHA, VA, the jumbo loan limits are being raised in most markets to $1 million.
I think it was $1.2 million, wasn't it?
Maybe it was $1.2 million was the high end.
In the most expensive markets.
In the most expensive markets, and even in like normal markets, non-resort, non-coastal, I believe they raised it from $650 to $730, something like that.
Right.
So why would they do that, and what does that mean? Well, those loans typically have lower interest rates. They have more advantageous ratios and things like that.
The average rate on a jumbo through Frannie Freddie, and it's batshit crazy to say Frannie Freddie is doing loans for $1 million, okay? Right. Anyone that's been in the business for more than 10 years knows what I'm talking about. I mean, you only took your low-end buyers to the government, lenders, essentially the lenders doing government loans. That's where all your...
Because they were more lenient.
Yeah, that's where all your, frankly, people with dodgy credit went, or your first-time buyers.
Low down payments.
Yeah, exactly. So those were, Now you're going to basically be going to your local loan officer, and he's going to be putting your borrower in a Fannie Mae mortgage. And the Fannie Mae mortgage, I think the number was $1.2 million, but the average interest rate was only 6.7%.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that's crazy. To get $1 million mortgage backed by the government for less than 7%.
Right.
What the hell are people bitching about? Honestly,
I know. And that's
it's crazy.
The FHA-VA deal. And meanwhile, what I was referring to earlier is that we've had 4 weeks in a row where mortgage applications have started to climb again.
Well, here, making the whole point.
Yeah.
If the inflation rate is 8.5%, 9%, whatever you guys, whatever you want to believe, and you can get a mortgage at less than 7%, that's a win. Are you realizing that the inflation on the property year over year will more than cover the cost of owning the property? Do the math on this. Unless there's an onerous condo fee or an association fee, the home is, you guys use appreciate, so we'll say appreciate. The home will appreciate more than the cost of the PITI in most cases. That's crazy.
It is. So
it is.
If you personally haven't bought yet, or maybe you want to buy more, but really, that's an objection handler for people waiting.
And there was a lot of good news yesterday about the GDP. There was, I think, the gross domestic product was over 3% in the last quarter. The other thing was kind of cool is it does seem like, even though we don't believe this is anything other than a temporary reprieve, it does appear like interest rates, mortgage rates in particular, will be going down into the spring. And this is all going to lead to what we believe will be an extraordinary first 6 months of next year.
Agreed.
The best way for you to leverage that opportunity is stack your listings.
Now is the time.
Don't throw yourself back into the Cuisinart and basically think you're going to, buy buyer leads. The greatest pain points in the marketplace right now are people, individual agents, teams, and brokers have built their businesses based on the realities of the past market, where a lot of their ways of attracting agents to be part of their teams and brokerages and whatnot was by giving them buyer leads. And now guess what's happened? The buyer leads have become too expensive. The buyer leads have become less motivated. And thus you're now going to lose mountains of cash because you're still feeling obligated to feed all these buyers agents. Realize the problem is not your inability to be a successful business person. The challenge is the rules have been the rules have changed. They're not changing back to be successful. And so you can still have your team. You can still have your brokerage. You just need to adjust to the new realities of being successful as being a team leader or running a brokerage. And by the way, another nice side benefit of the new realities is you're going to make more net profit, because this is going to give you an opportunity to really take a hard look at frankly, your P&L on the buyer agent side of the transaction. I'm getting off into the weeds right now. If you guys want to talk more about that, or frankly talk to Julie and I about joining our EXP Realty group, and this is what I spend most of my days doing, is talking to individual agents, brokers, and teams about moving over with Julie and I to EXP Realty, I'd be more than happy to have a very in-depth conversation with you. And a lot of you need someone to talk to that is going to be a neutral position, that's not going to make you, frankly, it's going to help you realize that if you're experiencing some hardship right now, it's just temporary. And then frankly, after our conversation, I'm sure you're going to feel like you have a very clear path forward. If you're a broker, or if you're a team, or even an individual agent, and you're looking to upgrade your brokerage situation, we would love the right to earn, frankly, the honor of being your sponsors at eXp Realty. You could just text me directly at 512-758-0206. In the meantime, guys, we appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for keeping this the number one listened to daily podcast for real estate professionals in the United States. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
Hello, thank you for having watched this video. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
That's right. And don't forget to hit that like button, leave your comments and questions below, and we will get right back with you.
Thank you for watching this video. And remember to watch the next one. You're going to love that one.